Hello, dear friends. Today, I bring you something truly extraordinary. Pay close attention because this story can transform how you think, speak, and connect with the English language. He was the greatest psychologist the world has ever known, a man who understood the human heart more deeply than anyone before or after him. Surely, you've heard the names Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, Macbeth, and Othello. But these aren't just plays, they are reflections of life itself. Love, ambition, betrayal, power, everything that defines humanity is captured in his words. His influence is so profound that the English language itself would not be the same without him. Countless words, expressions, and ideas that we use daily were first shaped by his genius. But how did William Shakespeare rise to become the greatest writer of all time? He was not born into privilege or wealth. He never studied at a grand university. Yet, he became the most celebrated figure in literature. So, if you are learning English, if you struggle with expression, or if you wonder how to find your voice, this story is for you. Because Shakespeare, too, began as an ordinary boy, no different from anyone else. This is a tale of struggle, passion, and limitless creativity. So relax, listen closely, and enjoy. Not only will it sharpen your English listening skills, but it will also inspire you deeply. It was a chilly April day in 1564, in a small English town called Stratford-upon-Avon, when a baby boy was born. His parents, John and Mary Shakespeare, could not have imagined that this child would one day change the world. His name was William Shakespeare. Stratford-upon-Avon was not a bustling city. It was a quiet place with narrow streets, wooden houses, and a gentle river flowing through it. People lived simple lives, farming, trading, and crafting. William's father, John, was a glove maker, skilled in leatherwork and respected in the community. His mother, Mary Arden, came from a prosperous farming family. She was strong, kind, and full of love for her children. William was the third of 8 siblings, and their home was always alive with noise, laughter, and chatter. But William was different. He was endlessly curious. He noticed everything, how people spoke, how they laughed, how they wept. Without realizing it, this curiosity was preparing him to become the greatest dramatist the world had ever seen. In those days, there was no television, no phones, no internet. People entertained themselves with stories. Traveling actors often came to perform in the streets, and young William would watch, wide-eyed with excitement. He loved old legends, folktales, and heroic histories. Each story fed his imagination and made it stronger. At age 7, William began school. The school was small and strict, with wooden benches and a demanding teacher. But what he learned there shaped his destiny. He studied Latin, history, poetry, and literature. Latin, the language of scholars, fascinated him. He read the great works of ancient Rome and Greece, writers like Virgil and Plutarch, whose stories would later inspire his plays. Yet William wasn't only a student of books. He adored nature. He walked through fields, listened to birds, and played with friends in the streets. He was full of life, just like any other boy. But life soon grew difficult. His father's business began to fail. Debt weighed heavily on the family, and they sometimes struggled even to buy food. William saw the worry in his parents' faces and learned that life could be harsh and uncertain. Instead of despairing, he observed everything around him more carefully. He felt emotions deeply: sorrow, joy, fear, and hope. These experiences would later give power to his writing. Even as a child, he had a gift for words. He wrote little rhymes and entertained friends with stories and performances. No one in Stratford could have guessed that this boy with big dreams would one day write the most famous plays in history. By his teenage years, William had read widely, listened to countless stories, and seen traveling actors perform. But his father's financial troubles worsened, and life grew harder. William realized that nothing, wealth, reputation, or happiness, lasts forever. This truth would echo throughout his future works. By 18, Shakespeare had grown into a young man. And, like many young men, he fell in love. Her name was Anne Hathaway, intelligent, independent, and beautiful. But there was something unusual, and was 26, 8 years older than William. In those days, such a match was rare. But love follows no rules. William loved her deeply. Then, life took an unexpected turn. Anne became pregnant before marriage, which was scandalous in those strict times. To protect their families, William and Anne married quickly in November 1582. William, just 18, was now a husband and soon a father. Their first daughter, Susanna, was born 6 months later. 2 years after that, Anne gave birth to twins, Hamnet and Judith. By 21, Shakespeare was responsible for a wife and 3 children. But how would he support them? His father's business was collapsing, and William had no steady work. He had no wealth, no land, no title. But he had stories, imagination, and an unstoppable drive to create. The Lost Years, 1585 to 1592. For 7 years, Shakespeare disappeared from records. Historians call this period the Lost Years. What did he do? No one knows for certain. Some believe he worked as a schoolteacher. Others think he joined a traveling acting troupe. One story even claims he fled Stratford after being caught hunting illegally on a nobleman's land. Whatever the truth, when Shakespeare re-emerged in 1592, he was in London, no longer a small-town boy, but a writer ready to conquer the world. Shakespeare in London. London in the late 1500s was alive with ambition. It was the beating heart of England's theatre scene, crowded with actors, poets, and playwrights, all competing for fame. Shakespeare arrived with no money, no contacts, and no status. But he had talent, determination, and an unshakable passion for storytelling. He began as an actor, studying how people spoke and moved on stage. Soon, he started writing plays of his own. At first, his works were light and entertaining, but gradually they grew deeper, filled with insight into human nature. By 1592, Shakespeare's name was spreading. But not everyone welcomed him. Playwright Robert Greene mocked him as an upstart crow, an ordinary man daring to act like a great writer. Shakespeare ignored the insult. Instead, he worked harder, writing more plays and proving his worth. Then, disaster struck. In 1593, the plague swept through London, forcing theatres to close. Shakespeare lost his livelihood overnight. But he adapted. He turned to poetry, writing Venus and Adonis and The Rape of Lucrece. These poems won him fame, fortune, and even the admiration of Queen Elizabeth I herself. By 1594, the theatres reopened, and Shakespeare returned to the stage, joining a renowned acting company called the Lord Chamberlain's Men. Now, he was not only writing plays but performing in them too. His works explored love and tragedy, Romeo and Juliet, ambition and guilt, Macbeth, jealousy and revenge, Othello, and madness and betrayal, Hamlet. By the end of the 1590s, Shakespeare was England's most famous playwright. But he wasn't finished, his greatest achievements were yet to come. The Globe Theatre, Shakespeare's Kingdom. In 1599, Shakespeare and his company built their own theatre, the legendary Globe Theatre. Imagine it, a massive circular building, open to the sky, packed with thousands of spectators eager for the performance to begin. This became Shakespeare's creative home, where his greatest masterpieces came to life. Hamlet, a haunting tale of madness, revenge, and destiny. Macbeth, a chilling story of ambition, power, and guilt. Othello, a tragedy of love, jealousy, and betrayal. Julius Caesar, a political drama of loyalty, power, and treachery. At the Globe, Shakespeare transformed theatre forever. Shakespeare's rise to greatness. Shakespeare's plays were far more than entertainment. They were profound works of art that stirred emotions, provoked thought, and challenged people to reflect on life itself. His success soon brought him something most writers of his time never achieved: immense wealth. By the early 1600s, Shakespeare was not just the most famous playwright in England, but also one of the richest. He held shares in the Globe Theatre, which guaranteed him steady income from every performance. His poems and plays, widely published and sold, added to his fortune. The royal court admired his brilliance, ensuring him influence and protection. With his earnings, he purchased several properties, including a grand home in Stratford known as New Place. At a time when most writers struggled to make a living, Shakespeare enjoyed comfort and prosperity. Yet, he was not content with riches alone. His ambition reached further. A new king, a new chapter. In 1603, England entered a new era. Queen Elizabeth I passed away, and the crown went to King James I. At first, no one knew if the new monarch would support theatre or close it down altogether. But Shakespeare soon discovered he had nothing to fear. King James was an enthusiastic admirer of his work. So much so that he invited Shakespeare's company to perform at court. Then came an honor beyond imagination. The company was renamed the King's Men, placing them under royal patronage. This recognition meant Shakespeare had risen from the son of a glovemaker to the official playwright of the King's own actors, the most prestigious title a dramatist could receive. The great works of his later years. From 1603 to 1611, Shakespeare wrote some of his deepest and most memorable plays. King Lear, the heartbreaking tale of a father's downfall. Macbeth, a dark portrait of ambition and ruin. The Tempest, a magical drama of forgiveness and renewal. These works reflected a change in Shakespeare himself. They were darker, wiser, and more emotional. By then, he had experienced fame, wealth, betrayal, and grief. His characters carried his own maturity, his wisdom, and his pain. By 1611, Shakespeare had achieved all he had ever desired: glory, fortune, and respect from royalty. Returning home. In 1613, at the height of his success, Shakespeare surprised everyone by retiring. After years of working in London as an actor and playwright, he longed for the peace of Stratford. He returned to New Place, his beautiful home, where he lived quietly. He strolled through his gardens, read by the fire, and enjoyed time with his daughters, Susanna and Judith. Friends and fellow writers sometimes visited, seeking his advice. Though retired, his mind remained full of poetry and imagination. The final chapter. In 1616, Shakespeare fell ill shortly after attending a dinner with friends. Whether it was fever or another sickness, no one knows for certain, but his health declined quickly. Surrounded by family and companions, the greatest playwright in history passed away on April 23, 1616, at just 52 years old. Before his death, he wrote his own epitaph, a warning carved into his grave to deter anyone from disturbing his rest. Good friend, for Jesus' sake, forbear to dig the dust enclosed here. Blessed be the man that spares these stones, and cursed be he that moves my bones. Even in death, his words carried lasting power. Shakespeare was buried in Holy Trinity Church in Stratford, the same church where he had been baptized as a baby. His funeral drew townspeople, actors, poets, and friends. His body lay in a simple grave, but his legacy was greater than any monument. The eternal legacy. Though his life ended, Shakespeare's influence had only just begun. His works spread across the globe, translated into every major language. His words inspired countless writers, poets, filmmakers, and thinkers. Many of his lines became part of everyday speech. To be or not to be. All the world's a stage. A rose by any other name would smell as sweet. Shakespeare proved that words carry extraordinary power, the power to inspire, to heal, and to transform the world. More than 400 years later, his plays are still performed, his books still studied, and his words still quoted. Why? Because he captured timeless truths about human nature. That love can be both beautiful and tragic, Romeo and Juliet. That power can corrupt even the strongest soul, Macbeth. That betrayal often comes from those closest to us, Julius Caesar. That life itself is uncertain and mysterious, Hamlet. His stories remind us of who we are and what we can become. A message for you. If Shakespeare were alive today, he would have one message: dream without limits. He was just a boy from a small town with no wealth, no connections, and no guarantees. But he had one thing, a dream. That dream made him immortal. And now, it's your turn. You have your own fire, your own story, your own voice. Don't let fear silence it. Don't let doubt hold you back. You are stronger than you think, and closer than you realize to changing your life forever. So chase your dream. Work hard. Believe in yourself. And one day, your name too could be remembered. Because greatness doesn't come from where you start, it comes from daring to go beyond it.